Hello, and for our math final, we were to choose two options and explain the math concepts and how we feel they are important to student learning. So for my first option, I went with option one, and this is where we were to choose one practice standard of our choice and then explain in our own words what the practice standard means and why is it important to the students, and also provide examples of students' actions that you want to see in your class to focus on that standard. So here I chose the standard practice 3, which is construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. So for this, I'm going to read this. Mathematically proficient students understand and use stated assumptions, definitions, and previously established results in constructing arguments. They make conjectures and build a logical progression of statements to explore the truth of their conjectures. They are able to analyze situations by breaking them into cases and can recognize and use counterexamples. They justify their conclusions, communicate them to others, and respond to the arguments of others. They reason inductively about data, making plausible arguments that take into account the context of which the data arose. And mathematically proficient students are also able to compare the effectiveness of two plausible arguments, distinguish correct logic and reasoning from that which is flawed, and if there is a flaw in an argument, explain what it is. So I'm not going to read the final couple sentences here because we're running on time. But step one, explain in your own words what that practice standard means and why is it important to the students. So this standard really is meaning that students are able to look at a problem, solve the problem, and then give an argument as to why their answer is the way it is, how they got to that answer. Now, also on top of that, they're able to look at other people's reasoning and determine if their way of finding the answer was correct or not. So the reason I feel that this is important to all students is because it is important for students to understand how they arrived at an answer. They may have the correct answer, but if they don't know how they got to that point, then it's going to be extremely hard for these students to grasp the concept of the mathematical practice that is being taught to them. So I feel that it is very important for students to look at their own work and explain why they got their answer, but then also look at other ways that the answer could have came about and also be able to provide support as to maybe why that answer, why a friend's answer did not come out correctly. So I feel like it's important for students to know these terms and be able to talk with one another about how they've got into an answer. Step two, provide examples of students' actions that you want to see in your class for your focus practice standard. So some things that I would like to see in my future classroom would be for students to show their work, be able to show me how did they arrive at a certain answer, and also be able to talk back to me and explain the steps that they took in order to arrive at the answer. I would also like to include class discussions on different problems. So I would love to put like a question up on the board and have all the students answer the same question and see what different ways or strategy these students came up with in order to get an answer, and then have us have a further discussion as a class on the right and wrong ways of finding an answer, and also be able to show them there is more than just one right way to find an answer for a problem. I look forward to using this math practice in the future, and I feel like it is extremely important for all students.